When I was 17, my family disappeared without warning, moved states away, left a note that said, "You'll figure it out." I slept in a storage unit, ate peanut butter with a spoon, worked night shifts. 12 years later, after I built a company from scratch and became a millionaire, my brother and parents suddenly reached out, asking to reconnect. When I walked in and saw the empty living room, I figured maybe my folks had just gone out. The lights were off, the couch was gone, and there was this weird echo when I closed the front door behind me. At first, I laughed, thought maybe it was a prank. I was 17, still in my fire cadet gear, boots muddy, smelling like smoke and adrenaline. I dropped my backpack by the stairs and headed for the kitchen. That's when I saw it. One single note stuck to the fridge with a magnet that used to hold up our grocery list. "You'll figure it out." That was it. No, love, Mom. No, back soon. Just that. I called my mom. Straight to voicemail. Dad? Same. My brother, Eric, his number rang and rang until it finally cut off. I stood there staring at my phone like maybe it was broken. Maybe the network was down. I tried texting. Nothing delivered. The house was dead quiet. No furniture. No photos on the walls. Even the stupid cactus I gave Mom last Mother's Day was gone. When I finally got a hold of the landlord, he sounded confused. "They moved out 3 days ago," he said. "Didn't they tell you? Cancel the lease early. Place is yours for another week." "Another week?" "Yeah," he said. 7 days, then I need the keys back." I didn't even have a key. Just used the garage code. That stopped working the next morning. I tried staying at Caleb's house for a night. His parents were cool, didn't ask questions, but after 2 nights, they said they needed the space. I got the same speech at Brady's and Sam's. The truth was, I was too proud to tell anyone what really happened. It didn't take long before I ran out of places to crash. That's when I found the storage unit. It was the size of a large closet, 8 by 10, no windows, and it smelled like old cardboard and dust. I rented it under my name with the cash I had left from the part-time grocery job I quit when I joined the fire cadets. I threw down a camping mat, stashed my clothes in a tote, and kept a flashlight tucked into my boot. It wasn't comfortable, but it was mine, and it was quiet. Every night, I'd curl up next to my backpack, phone clutched to my chest, praying that someone, anyone, would call. Mom, Dad, Eric. No one ever did. I learned how to shower at the gym, how to stretch a jar of peanut butter over 3 days, how to blend in at the library during the day so no one would ask questions. I stopped wondering why they left. Eventually, I just focused on how to stay alive. I didn't tell anyone what happened, not really. People assumed I'd run away or had a falling out with my parents. Let them think what they wanted. Because the truth? I didn't even get that luxury. I didn't get a fight. I didn't get a goodbye. I got a note on the fridge. "You'll figure it out." So I did. There was a stretch of time where my whole world revolved around peanut butter, a gym locker key, and the public library's row of computers. I'd wake up in that storage unit with my hoodie pulled over my face to block the light that leaked in through the door's seams. No alarm clock. Just the cold. I'd grab my gym bag, head over to the 24-hour fitness center, swiping like any other member. Showered. Brushed my teeth. Put on my cleanest shirt. Some mornings, I'd sit in the sauna just to thaw out my hands. After that, I'd hit the library. I wasn't there to read. I was there to survive. They gave you 2 hours a day on the public terminals. I used every minute searching for jobs. I created a Gmail account called wade.works89 to sound like someone stable. I didn't list an address, just wrote, flexible location, and hoped no one asked. Most places never replied. But I kept trying. One afternoon, I stopped by the truck stop out by the highway. I'd been there before, once when Eric and our kids and Dad needed a tire patch. This time, I wasn't there for repairs. The manager was a woman named Gloria. Tough, wiry, maybe in her 50s. She had this sharp voice that made your spine straighten even when she was being polite. "We need someone for nights," she said, flipping through a notebook. "Graveyard shift. Cleaning, stocking, manning the register." "I'll take it," I said, without thinking. She looked up. "You even know what you're saying yes to?" "No," I admitted, "but I'll learn." She stared at me for a long second, then nodded. "Show up Friday night at 11. Don't be late. You get 3 strikes. I don't give 4th chances." That was how I started working nights, midnight to 8, 6 days a week. I cleaned toilets, mopped soda spills, stocked shelves with dusty snack packs and cigarettes. I watched truckers stumble in half asleep for coffee and hash browns. Some nights, it felt like the whole world was sleeping except me. Gloria didn't talk much at first, but after a couple weeks, she started leaving me notes in the logbook. "Good work on aisle 4, or next time, double-check the coffee pot." I lived for those. On my breaks, I started bringing a cheap tablet I bought used. I used the truck stop's Wi-Fi to take free online classes, basic math review, then logistics, supply chain management, warehouse software tutorials. Anything that felt like it might be useful. I didn't know what the end goal was yet. I just knew I had to keep moving. One night, a regular named Hank, long-haul driver with a beer belly and a kind face, saw me hunched over my tablet. "You studying?" he asked, biting into a breakfast sandwich. "Trying to," I said. "Warehouse systems. Logistics." He raised an eyebrow. "You ever think about working in freight?" I looked up. "Like, driving trucks?" "No. Warehouses. Inventory flow. Planning routes. You'd be good at it. I got a buddy upstate who runs a temp agency. He's always looking for young guys with brains." He scribbled a name and number on a napkin. That napkin sat in my wallet for 3 weeks before I called. But when I did, it changed everything. I was still broke. Still living out of a storage unit. Still eating off-brand peanut butter with a plastic spoon. But I had a job. I had a plan. And for the first time since my family vanished, I wasn't just surviving. I was starting to build something. By the time I was 22, I had worked in 6 warehouses, for shipping centers, and a packaging plant in Ohio where the floor supervisor threw wrenches when he got mad. I kept my head down, took notes when no one thought I was paying attention, and taught myself how to read efficiency reports better than the guys with degrees. Most of the other temp workers came in tired, did the bare minimum, and left. I couldn't afford to be like that. I'd learned that no one was coming to save me. So I saved myself. My break came when a freight company in Pittsburgh let me shadow the route planner. The guy was drowning in paperwork. He had sticky notes all over his desk like some kind of manic bird had nested there. I asked if I could organize 1 week of shipments in Excel, just to see if I could do better. Next day, he pulled me aside. "You ever thought about doing this for a living?" That's when I started freelancing. At first, it was small gigs, helping independent truckers reduce mileage, scheduling smarter pickups. I built spreadsheets for fun, automate delivery routes, cut guys' fuel expenses in half. Word spread fast. By 25, I was running a legit consultancy out of a 1-bedroom apartment in Scranton. Wade Holt Logistics Solutions wasn't fancy, but it got the job done. I charged cheap at first, just to build my name. But clients kept coming back. I'd get calls like, "Hey, we got 20 trucks and a mess of invoices, can you help?" I always said yes. 3 years later, I wasn't charging cheap anymore. By 29, I had 6 full-time employees, 2 analysts, 1 sales guy, a data developer, and 2 remote schedulers who worked from different states. We had clients from all over the country. Some mom-and-pop outfits, some mid-sized fleets trying to compete with the big names. I even got flown out to Texas once to do a presentation for a shipping company with over 200 trucks. Me flown out. First class. I bought a real office, hired an actual receptionist, and finally moved out of the 1-bedroom. Got myself a house with a porch and a coffee maker that cost more than my first car. And still, not 1 word from my family. No text. No email. No, "Hey, we saw your company in Freight Monthly," or "Congrats on the Bloomberg article." Nothing. I Googled them once, out of curiosity, just to see if anyone had died or gotten arrested. But there was nothing. Eric had a LinkedIn profile that hadn't been updated since college. My parents? Still ghosts. I wish I could say it didn't bother me, that I was above it. But there were nights, quiet, good nights, when I'd be sitting out on the porch, drink in hand, watching the sun disappear over the rooftops, and I'd think. They really never looked back. It didn't stop me, though. If anything, it lit a fire. I'd come from a storage unit and a jar of peanut butter. I built something out of that. They left me a note that said, "You'll figure it out." Well, I did. And I was just getting started. I didn't expect the interview to go viral. It was a small trucking podcast out of Kansas City, one of those shows with a home-recorded vibe and a loyal blue-collar audience. The host, Jim, had a gravel voice and a habit of calling everyone buddy. I figured it'd be a quiet hour talking about efficiency models and driver retention. But somewhere around minute 30, Jim leaned in and said, "Wade, I gotta ask, you ever think about what made you this driven?" And I told him the truth. "My family left when I was 17, I said, my voice low. No warning. Just a note on the fridge. I had to figure it out. So I did." He blinked, leaned back, and said, "Damn. That clip hit something." It got shared on LinkedIn, then Reddit, then someone chopped it up for TikTok. Next thing I knew, strangers were emailing me with subject lines like, "You're the reason I didn't give up." People from across the country were calling my office just to say thank you. The emails poured in. And then, one afternoon, so did 2 that stopped me cold. The first came from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line just said, "Hi, it's Eric." I didn't open it right away. My chest tightened as soon as I saw the name. I had to stand up, walk around my office, stare out the window for a full 10 minutes before I sat back down and clicked. "Hey, Wade." I saw the interview. I don't even know what to say. I've carried a lot of guilt for a long time. And I know this doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I was just a kid. I didn't understand what was happening, and by the time I did, it was too late. I never stopped thinking about you. If you ever want to talk, I'd like that. Eric. The second email hit 10 minutes later. This one from my mother. Subject line, saw your interview. No greeting. No warmth. Wade. I watched the podcast clip someone sent me. I didn't expect you to talk about us publicly. If you'd like to speak privately, let me know. Mom. No apology. No. I'm proud of you. Just a subtle reprimand dressed up as an olive branch. I sat there staring at my screen, unsure whether to laugh or throw my phone across the room. It had been 12 years. And suddenly, because a few 100,000 strangers heard my story, they remembered I existed? That night, I brought it up to Dr. Layton, my therapist for the past 4 years. She listened, calm as ever, hands folded in her lap. Start with the person who seems to want a real conversation, she said. Test the waters. No promises. No obligations. So I responded to Eric. I kept it short. Got your message. Not sure what I want yet, but I'm open to talking. I didn't reply to Mom. I wasn't ready for that. What I was ready for. I wasn't sure yet, but for the first time in a long time, the past was knocking. And this time, I had the power to answer or not. We picked a neutral spot halfway between us, some cafe off I-78 in Allentown. Not a chain, just one of those little places with chalkboard menus and weirdly expensive muffins. I got there early, parked across the street, and sat in my car for 10 full minutes before walking in. Eric was already there. He looked older than I remembered, but not in a bad way, just more worn in. He had the same narrow face, the same nervous tapping of his fingers against the coffee cup. When he saw me, he stood too fast and knocked over a sugar caddy. Sorry, he mumbled, trying to catch the packets before they hit the floor. Somehow, that made me feel less like punching him in the throat. Hey, I said as I walked up. Hey, he said back. His eyes flicked to my face like he was still trying to figure out if this was really happening. We sat. There was a beat of silence as we both reached for our drinks, his black coffee, my tea I barely touched. I didn't think you'd come, he said. I didn't think I would either. Another pause. I've gone over this in my head 1,000 times, he started. What I'd say. What you'd say. I kept coming up with some big speech, but now he let out a breath. I'm just glad you're here. I looked at him for a second, then said quietly, why? Eric didn't blink. Because I owe you the truth. I leaned back. All right, let's hear it. He swallowed hard, then looked me dead in the eye. They told me it was your idea to stay. I froze. What? When we left, he continued, they said you refused to come. That you wanted to stay and finish fire cadets. That you said you'd be fine. I stared at him. I was 17. I know, he said quickly. I believed them. I shouldn't have, but I was 15 and scared, and they made it sound like you were the one making the call. That doesn't even make sense. I know. I shook my head. So they lied. He nodded slowly. They said you were strong. That you'd figure it out. They kept repeating that Wade always figures it out. It was like their way of making it okay. My mouth went dry. I nearly died in a storage unit. Eric looked up sharply. I lived in a goddamn storage unit for 5 months. Ate peanut butter with my fingers. Showered at a gym. Slept next to a tire rack. My voice cracked. And you thought I chose that? He looked gutted. I didn't know, Wade. I swear. I didn't know any of that. I was a kid. Just like you. But they left me. They packed up, took you, and left me a note. His eyes were red now. I swear to God, I didn't understand what happened until years later. And by then, I thought you hated me. I thought I'd burned the bridge. You didn't burn it, I said, voice low. They did. But you didn't try to rebuild it either. He nodded. You're right. We sat in silence again. The cafe was filling up, voices blending into soft background noise. But all I could hear was the pounding in my chest. I'm sorry, Eric said, and this time, his voice didn't shake. Not just for what I believed. For not calling. For not asking questions. For leaving you alone. I looked at him for a long time. And for the first time since I was 17, I saw my brother again. I'm not saying we're good, I said slowly. But you showed up. He nodded. I'll keep showing up. If you let me. I didn't respond. But I didn't walk away either. And maybe, for now, that was enough. The call came the next morning. I was on my second cup of coffee, half reading a logistics report when my phone lit up with an unknown number from Idaho. I knew who it was before I answered. Hello, I said. Wade. My mother's voice was sharp and thin, like she just swallowed something bitter. I assume Eric told you we reached out. I didn't say anything. There was a pause, and then she continued, all business. I wanted to explain why we left you behind. Not why we did what we did. Not why we hurt you. No emotion. Just logistics. Just like one of my spreadsheets. We assumed you'd be placed in foster care, she said flatly. We figured the state would step in. You were 17. It wasn't like you were a child. I stared at the floor. You thought I'd be better off in the system? She exhaled, like I was the one being dramatic. You were always independent. Strong. We believed you'd land on your feet eventually. I felt my jaw tighten. You could have left me with a relative, a friend, a forwarding address. Hell, a phone number. I see now that may have been a mistake, she said, emotionless. May have been, I repeated. Yes. Another long pause stretched between us. Then she said, Eric told me you've been successful. And there it was. The reason for the call. Not guilt. Not regret. Not a sudden swell of motherly instinct. It was about money. The truth hit me like cold water. I was a self-made millionaire now. That podcast had gone viral. I was visible. And visibility meant opportunity for them. You think because I have money, you can just step back into my life? I asked. No one's asking for anything, she replied, too quickly. Except I already knew that wasn't true. Because the very next day, my father emailed me. The subject line said, request. I opened it, already bracing myself. Wait. I know it's been a long time. I don't want to reopen old wounds. But we're going through a rough patch financially. If you're in a position to assist, we'd appreciate it. No apology. No explanation. No mention of what they'd done. Just a handout. I forwarded the email to Dr. Layton. A couple hours later, during our video session, she leaned into the camera and said gently, you don't owe them a thing. Wait. They made a choice. And now you get to make yours. I nodded, jaw clenched. You're allowed to protect what you've built, she said. That includes your peace. That night, I deleted my father's email. Didn't reply. Didn't even finish reading it. Because I finally understood. This wasn't about closure. It wasn't about love. It was about access. And access? That was no longer free. Eric called me 2 nights after the email from our dad. I didn't answer right away. Let it ring out once, then again. I figured if he really wanted to talk, he'd try a 3rd time. He did. I picked up. You saw the email, huh? He said quietly. Yeah, I said. And the call from Mom before that. There was a pause. I didn't know they were going to do that, he said. I didn't ask them to reach out. They just acted like they were owed something. They think I'm a bank with a face, I muttered. Eric let out a slow breath. I talked to them after your podcast went viral. That's when the wheels started turning. Mom said, maybe Wade's ready to forgive. Maybe he'll want to help. Like they were doing me a favor by giving you the chance. I laughed once, dry and bitter. Sounds about right. I just wanted to say, I don't want anything from you, man. I swear. I know, I said. But I need to set some boundaries. If this is going to go anywhere at all between us, I can't do this dance again. Okay, he said, cautiously. What kind of boundaries? No money, I said flatly. Not for you. Not for them. No asking. No middleman stuff. You don't get to bring me bad news hoping I'll swoop in. If I ever help again, it'll be because I choose to. Not because I'm guilt into it. Fair, he said after a beat. And if they ever want contact with me again, it starts with accountability, I continued. Full stop. Not a half apology. Not some, we thought you'd be fine speech. Real accountability. Otherwise, I don't want their names mentioned again. Eric was silent. Can you live with that? I asked. When he finally spoke, his voice was tighter. Yeah, I can. But then he added, you don't have to punish me for what they did. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. That's the part one never learned how to do. Okay, he said. But it didn't sound like okay. A few hours later, he texted me. That felt harsh. I came to you in good faith. You don't have to treat me like one of them. I didn't respond. The next day, he called again. I didn't answer. That evening, he left a voicemail. Wade. I'm sorry. I was out of line. I was just frustrated. I didn't mean to dump that on you. I'm in therapy now too. Started last month. And I really want to earn back whatever trust we can build. I mean that. This time, I called him back. I'm giving you one cautious chance, I said. That's it. That's all I need, he replied. I didn't know if I believed that. But for now, the line had been drawn. And this time, I was the one holding the chalk. I was halfway through a weekend spreadsheet audit when the knock came. Not a text. Not a call. Just an unexpected knock at my door on a rainy Saturday afternoon. I checked the peephole. It was a woman, late 20s, light brown hair pulled into a low bun, holding a soaked umbrella in one hand and a toddler on her hip. She looked nervous. I opened the door slowly. Can I help you? She gave a small smile. Hi. You're Wade, right? Yeah. I'm Dana, she said. Eric's wife. I froze. He didn't say you were coming. He doesn't know, she said quickly. I needed to talk to you. Alone. If that's okay. I hesitated. The kid on her hip stared at me with wide eyes and a grape juice mustache. All right, I said finally. Come in. I cleared a few folders off the couch and grabbed a towel from the kitchen for the little one. Dana sat carefully, the kind of careful that comes from walking on eggshells too long. She glanced around. This place is nice. I didn't answer. After a long pause, she said, I didn't know about you. I blinked. What? She looked down at her daughter. I didn't even know you existed until 3 years ago. You're telling me Eric never? He tried, she said quickly. At first. Said he had a brother he didn't talk to. That things were complicated. I pushed, but he always shut down. And my parents? She laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. They told me you were unstable. That you'd stolen from the family. That you had issues, mental health problems, criminal stuff, the works. I stared at her. Are you serious? She reached into her diaper bag and pulled out her phone. Tapped. Swiped. Then handed it to me. There it was. Screenshots from a Facebook group. Old posts from my mother and father. Prayer requests. Carefully curated lies. Please pray for our son Eric, who's carrying so much weight since his older brother's breakdown. We've had to make hard choices for the safety of our family. Wade is no longer in contact due to his actions. Stolen items. Broken trust. Manipulation. We tried everything. Group messages, too. Church ladies chiming in with praying for strength and sometimes letting go is best. Then one post from my mother that hit harder than the rest. It's a tragedy when someone chooses a path of deception and dishonesty. But we have to protect our peace. I set the phone down. Dana was watching me carefully. I didn't believe it. Not after I saw that podcast clip. Not after I started seeing the real Eric. He told me the truth, finally. And now. She took a breath. I wanted you to hear it from me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ever listened to them. And I'm sorry for what they did to you. Her voice cracked at the end. Her daughter reached for her cheek like she sensed the pain there. I didn't know what to say. The room felt small and loud all at once. Dana stood. I'm not here to fix anything. I just thought, maybe you'd want to know. I nodded slowly. I did. She turned to the door, then stopped. If you ever want to be part of our life, she said, nodding toward the little girl, we'd welcome that. No pressure. Just, the door's open. The little girl looked up at me, thumb in her mouth. I looked at her, then back at Dana. Thanks, I said. After they left, I sat in silence for a long time. And for the first time, it wasn't the silence of abandonment. It was the silence that follows truth. The kind that clears the air. And maybe, just maybe, makes space for something new. It started with blocked numbers and voicemails that got nastier by the day. After Dana's visit, word must have gotten back to my parents. Maybe Eric told them. Maybe Dana's silence said enough. Either way, something shifted. The tone went from cold to chaotic. The first message came from my father's email, no greeting, just a line of text. You're trying to poison your brother's family against us. You always were a manipulator. Then came the letters. Handwritten. Shaky. Slipped under my office door. God is watching you. You don't deserve forgiveness. You think you're safe now because of money. Just remember, we know where you live. I brought it up to Dr. Layton, who didn't hesitate. This is harassment, she said. Document everything. Then Eric called. Not panicked. Not upset. Terrified. They broke into our house. My blood ran cold. I asked. Our parents, he whispered. Dad busted the lock on the back door. Said he just wanted to talk. Mom followed him in like it was normal. Dana had to lock herself, and the baby in the bedroom. I told them to leave, and Dad just stood there yelling about betrayal. I was already grabbing my keys. You need to leave, I said. Now, pack what you can and come here. He didn't argue. 20 minutes later, Eric pulled into my driveway in a frenzy. Dana was in the passenger seat, shaking. Their daughter asleep in the back, clutching a stuffed lion. I let them in, locked the door behind us, and turned off the lights. That night, I called a lawyer. I had her on retainer already, used her for contracts and business filings. But now I needed something else. Something personal. Restraint orders? She asked. You've got plenty of grounds. Let's build a timeline. We collected everything, screenshots, voicemails, the slanderous social media posts Dana had saved, Eric's call logs, photos of the damaged door frame. Even the old letters. Everything my parents had said or done became a line in a document. It took 3 days to compile. It took 2 weeks to get in front of a judge. The hearing was tense. My father sat on one side of the courtroom in a blazer that didn't quite fit anymore. My mother sat next to him with crossed arms and a look of pure offense, like she was the one being wronged. Eric testified first. His voice shook. He talked about the break-in, about shielding his wife and child, about the screaming. Dana went next. Calm. Measured. Then icy as she read aloud the church group messages about me being unstable, the lies about theft, the rock-bottom character assassination. When it was my turn, I didn't even look at my parents. I just spoke. I was 17 when they left. No warning. No explanation. I lived in a storage unit and almost died. And not once in 12 years did they reach out until they saw me succeed. I handed the judge the folder of documents. He flipped through them slowly. My father tried to speak. Said something about family and forgiveness and spiritual misunderstanding. The judge didn't bite. Restraining orders were granted. Full protection. For me, for Eric, for Dana, for their daughter. My parents didn't speak to us as they left the courthouse. But the way my mother glanced back? That wasn't guilt. That was fury. Back at my house that night, the air felt heavier but cleaner. Eric stood in my kitchen, holding his daughter while Dana made tea. "You didn't have to do this," he said. "Yeah," I replied. "I did. Because this time, I wasn't going to let history repeat itself. This time, I didn't run. I protected what mattered. And it wasn't them. The quiet that followed the restraining order felt different. Not like the silence I used to dread in the storage unit when the world had forgotten me. This silence was earned, controlled, mine. Eric and Dana moved into a townhouse 10 minutes from my place. Nothing fancy, 2 bedrooms, a fenced-in yard, and a swing set that Eric and I put together over the course of one very frustrating Saturday afternoon. They enrolled their daughter, Ava, in a nearby preschool. Dana went back to part-time work doing remote admin for a nonprofit. Eric started attending therapy weekly and even asked me to recommend a couple of business books. I gave him the ones that helped me survive. We started a new routine. Every Sunday, they came over for dinner. I grilled. Dana brought dessert. Eric usually washed the dishes afterward without being asked. The first few dinners were cautious. Everyone on their best behavior. But as the weeks passed, something loosened. Ava started running through my house like she owned the place, dragging crayons across my spare room wall. I didn't even mind. I just bought paint. One night, after we finished cleaning up from taco night, Dana handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. She hesitated. "It's from your mother." I didn't take it right away. Just looked at it, resting there between us like something that might explode. "She dropped it off at our lawyer's office," Dana said. "Said it was her last message. That she won't reach out again unless you initiate." I stared at the envelope for a long time. Later that night, after they'd gone and the house was quiet again, I opened it. "Wade, I understand now that we did something unforgivable. I believed for a long time that what we did was merciful, that letting you go was somehow justified because of how capable you were. I see now that this was a lie I told myself so I wouldn't have to carry the shame of what we did. I cannot fix it, and I won't ask to. I won't call again. I won't write. If you ever want to speak, I'll answer. If not, I'll respect that. I hope you find peace. Mom." I folded the letter and placed it in the back of my desk drawer. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't respond either. It was strange how something that once would have shattered me now felt small, powerless. A month later, we celebrated Ava's 4th birthday in my backyard. It was a chaos of juice boxes, balloons, and children tearing through the lawn with frosting-covered fingers. Dana made a giant cake shaped like a ladybug. Eric handled the grill. I set up the sprinkler. At one point, I stood back and just watched. The sun was setting, golden light catching Ava's curls as she laughed and ran in circles. Dana was chatting with 2 other moms by the picnic table. Eric waved at me from the grill, holding up a hot dog like a trophy. For a moment, I thought of the note. "You'll figure it out." They thought that was the end of me. A simple sentence scribbled in black ink. The closing chapter. But now I looked at this noisy, joyful mess of a backyard full of real love and real family. Chosen, not inherited, and I realized I did figure it out. And it was more than they ever expected, more than they ever deserved.